When the lights go out, you have about 3 seconds before panic sets in. 3 seconds before your brain shifts from comfort to survival mode. And in those 3 seconds, most people make a mistake so catastrophic that it could cost them everything. I'm not talking about fumbling for a flashlight or checking your phone battery. I'm talking about the one decision that separates those who survive extended blackouts from those who become statistics. If you're watching this right now, you need to understand something critical. The next major blackout won't be like the ones you've experienced before. It won't last a few hours. It could last days, weeks, or even months. And the mistake I'm about to reveal is killing people's chances of survival before the first night even ends. So if you care about protecting yourself and your family when the grid fails, hit that subscribe button now, because what I'm about to teach you goes against everything you think you know about blackout survival. Let me tell you what happens in the first 60 minutes of a major blackout. The power cuts. People reach for their phones. They open the refrigerator to check their food. They light candles. They start their generators. They use their flashlights to walk around the house, checking every room. They call neighbors. They post on social media asking if anyone else lost power. They turn on battery-powered radios. And here's the brutal truth. Every single one of these actions is wrong. Not just inefficient. Wrong. Because they all stem from the same fundamental mistake that will destroy your chances of long-term survival. The number one mistake everyone makes during a blackout is this. They immediately start consuming their resources without knowing how long the crisis will last. Think about what that means. You don't know if the power will return in 1 hour or 1 month. You have no intelligence about what caused the outage. You don't know if this is a local transformer failure or a nationwide grid collapse. You have zero information about the scope, the cause, or the duration. And yet, within minutes, people are burning through batteries, draining phone charges, opening refrigerators that release cold air, running generators that consume fuel, and lighting candles that won't last the week. This is resource hemorrhaging, and it's the reason why most people won't make it past day 5 of an extended blackout. Let me explain why this is so deadly. Your survival in any crisis depends on one thing: resource management. Not how much you have, but how wisely you use what you have. I've studied countless disaster scenarios, from Hurricane Katrina to the Texas freeze of 2021, from the Northeast blackout of 2003 to recent grid failures across Europe. The pattern is always the same. People who panic and immediately activate all their backup systems run out of critical supplies before they even understand what they're facing. Meanwhile, people who pause, assess, and ration from minute 1 are still functioning when everyone else is in the dark, cold, and desperate. Here's what actually happens when you make this mistake. You grab your flashlight and start walking through your house. That flashlight has maybe 20 hours of battery life. You just burned 30 minutes checking rooms you didn't need to check. You open your refrigerator 3 times in the first hour to see what you have. Every time you open that door, you release cold air. A closed refrigerator can keep food safe for up to 4 hours. An opened refrigerator loses that protection in 90 minutes. You turn on your portable radio to get news. That radio runs on 4D batteries. You leave it on for 2 hours trying to get updates. Those batteries could have lasted you 40 hours if you'd used them strategically, checking news only twice per day for 15 minutes. You fire up your generator to keep the house running normally. That generator burns through a gallon of fuel every 6 to 8 hours. If you have 20 gallons of fuel, you just committed to running out of power in 1 week maximum. But what if the blackout lasts 3 weeks? 4 weeks? What then? This is the cascade effect of the number one mistake. Once you start consuming without knowing the timeline, you create a resource deficit that becomes impossible to recover from. You can't unburn that fuel. You can't recharge those batteries without power. You can't refreeze that food once it spoils. Every decision you make in the first hour of a blackout determines whether you'll be self-sufficient on day 10 or begging neighbors for help. And here's the part that should terrify you. In a real grid-down scenario, your neighbors will be in the same desperate situation. There will be no one to help you. Now let me tell you what you should actually do when the power goes out, and why this approach will save your life. The moment you lose electricity, your first action is not to turn anything on. Your first action is to gather information while consuming absolutely nothing. Sit in the dark for 10 minutes. Let your eyes adjust. Use that time to think and plan. Look out your windows. Are your neighbors' houses dark? Is the street dark? Can you see lights in the distance? This tells you the scope. If it's just your house, it's a breaker or a local issue. If it's your whole neighborhood, it's more serious. If the entire visible area is dark, you're looking at a major event. This information costs you nothing and it's worth everything. After 10 minutes of observation, You use one battery-powered device for 5 minutes maximum to gather intelligence. Turn on a small radio or check your phone briefly. What are the reports saying? Is this weather-related? Is there any mention of cyberattacks, physical attacks on infrastructure, or cascading failures? Are authorities giving a timeline for restoration? Write down what you learn, then turn the device off. You just spent 5 minutes of battery life to gain critical intelligence. Now you can make informed decisions about resource allocation. Next, you conduct a resource inventory in your mind. Don't turn on lights to check your supplies. You should already know what you have and where it is. How much water do you have stored? How much food that doesn't require cooking? How many batteries of each type? How much fuel for your generator? How many candles? How many ways can you purify water? How can you cook without electricity? If you don't know these answers right now, you're already behind. Real preppers know their inventory in the dark because they've planned for exactly this scenario. Based on your intelligence gathering and inventory assessment, you now calculate your resource timeline. If this is a 3-day blackout, you can afford to use your generator for a few hours per day. If this might be a 3-week blackout, that same generator becomes a precious resource you only use for critical functions like preserving medication or pumping water. This is called adaptive rationing, and it's the difference between surviving and failing. You don't consume based on comfort, you consume based on strategic necessity. Let me give you a real example of how this plays out. During the 2021 Texas winter storm, millions lost power for days in freezing temperatures. People who immediately turned on their generators to heat their entire homes ran out of fuel within 48 hours. They then had no way to heat water, cook food, or charge critical devices. Some of them died from hypothermia in their own houses. Meanwhile, people who used strategic rationing kept one room warm, used generators for only 2 hours per day to charge batteries and preserve food, and rotated through their resources systematically. These people survived comfortably for the entire week plus outage. Same resources, completely different outcomes. The only difference was the decision made in the first hour. Now let's talk about the other critical mistakes that compound the main one, because understanding these will complete your blackout survival knowledge. The second biggest mistake is not protecting your information access. When the power goes out, people grab their smartphones and start doom scrolling, texting everyone they know, and trying to get on social media. Your phone battery becomes your most valuable information tool, and most people kill it within 6 hours. Here's what you need to understand. In an extended blackout, information becomes power. Knowing what's happening, where help is available, what threats are emerging, and when power might return gives you a survival advantage. If your phone dies on day 2 because you watched videos and scrolled feeds on day 1, you just blinded yourself for the rest of the crisis. The solution is ruthless phone discipline. When the blackout starts, immediately put your phone in airplane mode. This stops it from constantly searching for signal and draining battery. Only take it out of airplane mode twice per day for 15 minutes to check critical updates and send necessary messages. Turn off all notifications. Lower your screen brightness to minimum. Disable all background apps. If you follow this protocol, you can make a phone battery last 5 to 7 days instead of 1. And if you have a small solar charger or a battery bank, you extend that indefinitely. Information superiority wins crises. The third major mistake is treating a blackout like a camping trip. People light up their houses like Christmas trees with candles and lanterns, thinking they're creating normalcy. What they're actually doing is advertising to everyone outside that they have resources. In a short blackout, this doesn't matter. In a long-term grid-down situation, this gets you robbed or worse. Every light you show tells potential threats that you have supplies, fuel, batteries, and food. Strategic survivors use blackout curtains, stay dark, and only use light in interior rooms that can't be seen from outside. They understand that security through obscurity is a real survival principle. The gray man concept applies to houses just as much as it applies to people. Don't stand out. Don't advertise. Stay invisible. The fourth mistake is ignoring water before it becomes critical. People assume their taps will keep working during a blackout. Sometimes they do for a while. Municipal water systems have backup power, but it's limited. Pumping stations can fail. Water pressure can drop. Treatment systems can go offline. Within 24 to 72 hours of a major blackout, water service often degrades or stops completely. Most people don't realize this until they turn on their tap and nothing comes out. By then, they haven't filled bathtubs, haven't filled every container, and haven't prepared backup purification methods. Water is survival day 1 priority. The moment you suspect an extended blackout, you fill every vessel you own. Bathtubs, sinks, pots, bottles, buckets. You're not wasting water. You're securing your most critical resource before the system fails. The fifth mistake is poor food preservation decisions. When the power goes out, people immediately start cooking everything in their freezer, thinking they need to use it before it spoils. This is backward thinking. A full freezer stays frozen for 48 hours if you don't open it. A full refrigerator stays cold for 4 hours unopened. Your job is to not open them unless absolutely necessary. Treat your refrigerator and freezer like a sealed vault. You don't cook frozen food until you're certain the blackout will exceed your preservation window. If power returns after 1 day, your food is still good. If you cooked it all, you just created a different problem. Too much cooked food with no refrigeration. Strategic survivors eat their non-perishable and shelf-stable foods first, preserving their cold chain as long as possible. The sixth mistake is generator misuse, and this one kills people literally, not just figuratively. When the blackout hits, people drag generators into their garages, their basements, even into their houses to run extension cords more easily. Carbon monoxide poisoning from improper generator use kills dozens of people during every major blackout. Generators must be outside, at least 20 feet from windows and doors, with exhaust pointed away from the structure. Beyond placement, people run generators continuously, burning through fuel at catastrophic rates. Professional approach. Run your generator for 2 to 3 hours twice per day. During those windows, charge all your battery banks, cool your refrigerator and freezer, pump water if you have a well, and handle any electric-dependent tasks. Then shut it down. This makes your fuel last 10 times longer and reduces noise signature that attracts attention. The seventh mistake is isolation thinking. When the power goes out, people retreat into their homes and try to handle everything alone. This works for short blackouts but fails in extended ones. Strategic survivors make contact with trusted neighbors early, pooling information and sometimes resources. I'm not talking about broadcasting your supplies to everyone. I'm talking about identifying 2 or 3 solid households in your immediate area and creating a mutual aid agreement. One person has a generator, another has water purification, another has medical supplies, another has security skills. You don't combine resources. You create a network where each household maintains independence, but shares critical information and provides backup if someone faces a specific crisis. This is how communities survive when systems fail. The eighth mistake is neglecting security while focused on comfort. People are so worried about staying warm, fed, and entertained that they forget their most basic vulnerability: other people. After 72 hours without power, desperation begins. After 1 week, social order starts breaking down in unprepared populations. People who ran out of resources start looking for others who have them. Your job during a blackout is to maintain a security posture from day one. Keep doors and windows locked and reinforced. Keep noise down. Keep lights concealed. Keep a watch schedule if you're in a household with multiple adults. Have a plan for dealing with people who come to your door asking for help. This sounds harsh, but it's reality. You cannot save everyone, and attempting to do so will compromise your family's survival. The ninth mistake is giving up on hygiene and sanitation too quickly. When water stops flowing and toilets stop flushing, people panic and create health hazards inside their own homes. This leads to disease, which becomes a survival threat equal to lack of food or water. You need a waste management plan before the crisis hits. 5-gallon buckets with heavy-duty bags and kitty litter create functional toilets. Hand sanitizer and wet wipes maintain hygiene without running water. Designated waste areas away from living spaces prevent contamination. Survivors who maintain sanitation discipline stay healthy. Those who don't get sick, which compromises everything else. The 10th mistake, and this one might surprise you, is not maintaining routine and morale. When the lights go out for days or weeks, psychological breakdown becomes a real threat, especially for families with children. People sink into depression, fear takes over, and decision-making deteriorates. Strategic survivors establish a daily routine even in crisis. They wake at the same time. They have tasks and responsibilities. They limit news consumption to prevent panic spiraling. They maintain some normalcy through conversation, games that don't require electricity, and shared meals. Mental survival is as important as physical survival. If your mind breaks, your body will follow. Here's what all of this comes down to. Blackout survival is not about having the most supplies. It's about having the discipline to use what you have correctly. It's about making smart decisions in the first critical hours instead of panic decisions. It's about understanding that every resource is finite and must be treated like the precious asset it is. The number one mistake, consuming without knowing the timeline. kills more survival chances than any other single factor. If you fix that one mistake, if you master the pause and assess mindset, everything else becomes manageable. So what do you do right now today before the next blackout hits? You create your blackout protocol. You write down your first-hour action plan. You inventory your resources. You test your equipment in the dark so you know how to use it without fumbling. You establish communication plans with family members who might be in different locations. You identify your weak points and fill those gaps. You train everyone in your household on the protocol so there's no confusion when crisis hits. And you accept the hard truth that comfort is not the goal. Survival is the goal. Comfort might come later, after you've secured your core needs through intelligent resource management. The grid is more fragile than most people understand. Cyberattacks on infrastructure are increasing. Extreme weather events are intensifying. Physical attacks on substations are rising. Equipment is aging and failing. The question is not if you'll face an extended blackout. The question is when. And when that moment comes, the decisions you make in the first hour will determine everything that follows. Most people will panic, consume, and fail. You're not going to be most people. You're going to pause, assess, and dominate the situation through superior knowledge and discipline. Don't just watch this and forget it. Take action. Make your plan. Test your systems. Prepare your mind for the psychological reality of sitting in the dark while you execute a strategic survival protocol. And if you want to go deeper, you'll find in the pinned comments some guides and documents that can take your preparedness to the next level. Check them out when you're ready. The people who survive the next major grid failure won't be the ones with the most gear. They'll be the ones who understood resource management, avoided the #1 mistake, and executed their plan with discipline and intelligence. Be one of those people. Your life might depend on it. If this information opened your eyes to something you didn't see before, hit that like button and share this with someone who needs to hear it before it's too late. Subscribe if you're serious about survival, because we're going to keep diving into the knowledge that keeps you alive when everything else fails. The grid will go down. The question is, will you be ready?